The truth is out there. Knowledge is power. This is the Prepper Podcast Radio Network.
Are you sick and tired of having your First Amendment harassed or censored on Facebook? Use no more, as we now have a new alternative to Facebook. It's called Awareness Act. Awareness Act is a social network designed for patriots, to be used by patriots, and is ran by patriots. Stand up and help in the fight to protect your constitutional rights. Patriots can create pages, blogs, videos, documents, articles, and so much more. We even have a unique news feed system that allows you to share, read, or connect with any patriot on Awareness Act. We are a dedicated tool for patriots to use against the tyranny our Constitution is facing. So if you're tired of having your rights infringed upon, come check us out at www.awarenessact.com. Again, that is www.awarenessact.com, the social network for patriots, not potatoes.
Whether you take me for the fool, I know that I can be. Whether you see me eye to eye.
Are you storing food? Many preppers are storing food for months and years, but only have enough fuel stored for days or weeks. Stretch your fuel storage by harnessing the power of the sun with a sun oven. Food can be baked, boiled, or steamed at temperatures of 360 to 400 degrees Fahrenheit with the power of the sun. Depending on where you are located, you can use the sun for 50 to 80% of your cooking, allowing you to preserve your fuel storage for rainy days. Sun-baked foods stay moister and have less shrinkage and don't burn. Sun-baked roasts are tastier and more succulent, and sun-baked bread has unparalleled taste and texture. Water can be heated in the sun oven for purification or personal hygiene. For the past 25 years, sun ovens have been proudly made in the U.S. They are durable, have a long life, and come with a 100% satisfaction guarantee. For a discount coupon, email podcast@sunoven.com. That's podcast@sunoven.com.
Have you ever wanted to generate your own supply of electrical power, even save money on your electric bill? If so, this is going to be the most important message you will ever hear. Solar power generators are now available. These emergency backup systems provide life-saving electrical power when you need it most. Unlike gas generators, a solar generator runs quietly, emits no fumes, and produces electricity from the sun. It's like having an electric power plant running quietly in your own home. Run sump pumps, shortwave radios, computers, and even keep your food from spoiling. Whether it's hurricanes, ice storms, brownouts, or blackouts, you'll never suffer through painful power outages again. And here's the best news, a remarkable fall truckload sale going on right now that gets you $1,700 in bonuses when you buy a solar generator. To find out why solar generators are the best generators and get $1,700 for doing so, go to falltruckloadsale.com. That's falltruckloadsale.com. Generate your own supply of electricity. Go to falltruckloadsale.com. That's falltruckloadsale.com.
This is KPRN-DB, broadcasting worldwide from Southeast Oklahoma, USA, to parts unknown.
And welcome to the Prepper Podcast Radio Network. This is the Family Preparedness Hour, and I believe it's show number 3. And we're your hosts, John and Carrie Melandrid. And we want to take this time actually to apologize. Our daughter won't be here today. Halloween's right around the corner, and she's actually at a friend's. And
doing kid things.
Yes. And it's a beautiful 80 degrees here in southeast Oklahoma. And we want to thank you for tuning in today. And thank Pioneer Living, which is our website, and, of course, the American Preppers Network for helping to bring you our shows on the new Prepper Podcast. And, of course, we also want to thank two of our sponsors that you'll be hearing later in the show. I just want to let you know that for the folks out there listening and stuff, we are the biggest online network when it comes to prepping and preparedness. And I'll explain that. With Pioneer Living and American Preppers Network working as a team to get the information out there from people from all walks of life and basically worldwide on what to prepare for, how to prepare for it, and to simply be prepared for the what if. We have 50 state blogs, each state, for example, OklahomaPreppersNetwork.com. And you can go there and get updates on your state or, of course, listen to the Prepper Podcast. It's up on every state, as well as on the APN's home network page. We also have the Canadian Preppers Network, and they have 13 provinces. We have the Swedish, the UK, the Netherlands, Panama, Mexico, Ireland, Germany, Australian, and, of course, several other affiliates. The APN Ham Radio, the Daily Prepper, AP, the Patriot, and Prepper.org. And so, well, and of course, Pioneer Living, and then there's a lot of other sites out there as well. Sorry, there's too many to mention.
I love track. No.
Yeah. And then, of course, the Prepper Podcast and all the great hosts that we have. And so it's really huge network now, which is great because that means, we can supply more information.
More people.
To more people.
That's our goal.
To more people everywhere.
Again, our daughter's not with us today, but lately she has mentioned a few things, and I'm really excited about it because she's actually noticing and being aware of preparedness things that are readily available to her. Is, for an example, she was talking about not only does the school bus keep a first aid kit on it, which I would expect them to do, but there's also emergency supplies in a box in the way of food, water, and various things for the kids should something happen and the bus be stranded with the kids on it. And I think that's really good that she is being aware of these things and telling me about it or telling us about it. She has been for a long time, almost every time we get in the vehicle, checking off what we have in there in case we get stranded in our vehicle as well, which I just think it's good for kids to, be aware of it. We're not constantly quizzing them. This is just something else that if you continue to keep your kids involved with it, you'll be surprised at what they pick up on when they're away from you.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So I just think that's really important, and just wanted to share that with the listeners. So anyway, we need to probably go over a little bit again about the 96-hour kit that we had talked about and posted up on the Prepper Podcast.
Yes.
.com, and just, I guess, talk about that in a little more detail, because we had some comments posted after we posted that list. And you want to...
Well, there was a little confusion. For starters, we didn't get to finish the list, of course, on air. And so we posted it. And there was a couple of people that were kind of confused. For one, that list is actually from the Latter-day Saints. We just used that as an example.
And a guideline for people.
Yes. Of course, as we talked about on the last show, some of the things were kind of silly, like an altimeter, for instance. What do we need that for? We won't. It really depends on what your needs are. It really depends on your location. It depends on even the time of year, the seasons. Our bags change continuously. Let me explain. If you want an emergency bag, excuse me, for instance, a 96-hour kit, it's better, in my opinion, to go to, for instance, ready-made resources and actually buy that kit, because it does have everything you need for a grab-and-go bag in an extreme emergency or when you have to get out, just boom. This type of 96-hour kit that we were talking about, because there's so many, we can't name them all, but is one that is just for an example. And, of course, you can change that bag from spring to summer, etc., because it continuously changes. And so that's something to keep in mind as well. And that's why I think there was a little bit of confusion or other people's perceptions of what a 96-hour kit would have. So let me read just a couple of the posts out there, and that way you'll have more of an understanding. Norm, a.k.a. John Smith, said, "This list is retarded. There are things on this list I can go years without, and there are things I don't walk out the door for a 20-minute walk that aren't mentioned. A 96-hour list should be short, to the point, limited to things you need to get through a 96-hour emergency. That's it." Well, yes and no, because I've never known in an emergency to only last 96 hours. Okay, so there's a real problem right there.
Right, you can't put a time frame in it.
Yeah, if a tornado came through, a hurricane, it could be an earthquake.
House fire.
Yeah, the damage could be extensive. There's no such thing as limiting it to a 96 hours. So that's not for the literal term. Right. A 96-hour just means you have enough little supplies to get you through 96 hours, but hopefully, of course, you have different changes of clothes and blah, 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 because it's probably going to be longer than that. So it's just an example, but I do understand his point. Mm-hmm. But it's just so difficult to say how many. I mean, we'd have to spend the next 4 or 5 shows trying to just discuss different types of 96-hour kits, and there's a lot more other things that we need to discuss. So it's not really feasible. Another one was from Sci-Fi Check, and she said, "Maybe I missed something there, but isn't this supposed to be a 96-hour kit?" Well, there you go once again. We're talking about 4 days here, aren't we? Another thought here as well. Wouldn't it make sense to adjust the kit to the seasons? Why would I need a swimsuit and mittens in the same bag? Well, like I said before, and we even said on the show, so yeah, apparently she missed something. And I'd like to actually talk about this comment, swimsuit. If it's, let's say you're with a group, or let's say your whole neighborhood was damaged, do you really want to take and let's say dip in that stream and bathe? You know, if the emergency was longer than 96 hours, with all these people looking? I mean, I know our daughter, for instance, would be too modest. Me, I wouldn't care. Yeah. and right. I guess maybe, a Sci-Fi Chick doesn't care either. I mean, she wants to, bathe in front of lots of people. Maybe she wouldn't need the 96-hour kit. But it's just, that's where you have to adjust it for your own personal preference.
Right. When you're talking about adjusting it for seasons and whatnot, here in southeast Oklahoma, it is actually still in the 80s. And to us, that's bathing suit weather, and the lakes are still warm, and people are still swimming. Okay, but the nights are getting chilly, and you will need those mittens, too, for the nights in the early morning. So you would need it. I mean, we're talking about it's November, and most people are going to be thinking, I just need mittens. Well, no, not necessarily, because, we've been out swimming in the lakes in November here in southeast Oklahoma, and right in the middle of the day.
And so if you're without, of course you grabbed your bag and went, well, boy, I'm wearing those mittens that night. So, yes, you would need them. And that's because of our location. You would need those in the same bag.
So we talk about geographical location as well as seasons, right? So you just have to think, that we're trying to think of everybody and not just one region or season.
Exactly. And then, of course, we responded, I think you're missing something. As stated on the show, these are just suggestions, and yes, some things are necessary, but you have to adjust this list to your own needs, location, and season. So we've reintegrated this several times, and Norm, a.k.a. John Smith, wrote back again, and I'm not going to go into this and read this, but it was a little long, and it's like, okay, we'll address your comments on the air, and I was going to address each and every one of his, just trying to explain, not necessarily to be rude.
Because he wasn't still understanding.
Correct.
Kind of. Okay.
And somebody else made a comment, too, basically integrating, they understood what we were talking about. I think after 1,000 downloads, too, of the show, there was 1,000 people that understood. So there's only 2 that didn't quite get it out of the 1,000.
Right. Then didn't we hear back from Norm?
Yeah, he actually wrote back, and I really have a lot of respect for the guy now. Now, I will probably read this somewhat. I was raised to admit when you're wrong. I honestly have to say I was wrong. I had no idea what you guys referred to as a 96-hour kit. I wrongly assumed it was a kit to get through a 96-hour period. And he goes on to more, excuse me, basically, and I really liked what he had to say. Matter of fact, I liked it so much, especially, I guess he was on vacation when now, I don't know if he was on vacation for the whole time. That would be great. If he's on vacation, he still wants to tune into our show. And I really appreciate it when he's on vacation and he still writes a comment back. That's dedication. And because of that, if Norm's listening out there, which I'm sure he is, I would appreciate it if you took and maybe from your perspective, he lives in the Northwest, Washington State, and so from his perspective, let's get his ideas on what a 96-hour kit should be as far as cheap and simple, because he probably does have some good ideas. And once he has that down, hopefully you'll email me at the prepperpodcast@pioneerliving.net, and I want to get you on the show. I mean, I just think that's really nice, and I'd like to get you on the show, and you can actually tell our listeners out there your idea of the 96-hour kit and what you could do on a budget, And, of course, to everybody out there, these are just suggestions. He's going to have a different perception of it being in the Pacific Northwest than somebody in Oklahoma or Texas or somebody living in Maine.
Or Virginia or, the East Coast, whatever.
Right. Matter of fact, I think I'll mention a Tom with the American Preppers Network that every single state should actually blog a 96-hour kit for their location for every single state and put it up there.
And that's a good idea.
Now Washington State, I understand, because we live there, Western Washington, it's rainy, it's cold, it's icky most of the time. Eastern Washington, it's either really hot or really cold. So that would be tough because Eastern Washington people are going to prep differently than Western Washington and, of course, depending on your season.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I think just for a general state guideline, it would be nice to have something for everybody. Mm-hmm. So it's just a thought for,
It is. Hopefully we can get that done for our listeners.
Yeah.
That would be great.
And so we just wanted to reintegrate on the 96-hour kit. So let's talk a little bit about emergency supplies in your vehicle.
Okay. Okay.
Or are you doing that for another show?
No. There was that. Yeah, we need to talk about that. I think, what is it? I lost it here, and I'm sorry about that. I lost my list.
Well, complete survivalist bug-out vehicle, there are many pros and cons regarding what type of vehicle you have. You know, should you need to evacuate your home and stuff like that, which, of course, there is.
Right.
And we're not going to tell, everyone you need to go out and purchase a special bug-out vehicle, but you should make sure your vehicle is stocked with, emergency supplies, food, water, first aid kit, stuff like that. That's really important. We actually have it in ours. We actually have a small Red Cross bag that has food and water in it, and a flashlight and medical supplies and stuff like that.
Space blankets, right.
Space blanket and stuff. And, of course, we have the regular car stuff, flares. I think we need to throw a blanket in there. I don't think we have one of those other than the space blankets and the kit. And then also basic tools, maybe a fix-a-flat kit. Well, you could go on and on. I think the guys mainly would know what kind of tools they'd need.
Well, yeah, wrenches, pliers, tire and tube repair kits, of course, jumper cables. These are things that we always have in there. Can of starting fluid, your ice scraper, radiator stop leak. Of course, water not only for yourself, in your emergency kit, but you might need it for your vehicle as well. Duct tape. I used to work in the RV industry and had some drivers that would transport RVs from all over the country to our lot, and it's so funny because these two were in their 70s and retired and just enjoying driving RVs across the country to the dealership. But the only thing that they said they needed in their toolkit when they were traveling across country was duct tape and baling wire. It would fix anything. And, given their age and whatnot, they probably could do anything with duct tape and baling wire. They'd use it as a vehicle. So, anyway.
Well, absolutely.
Fire extinguisher, safety flares like we talked, assorted screwdrivers, WD-40, there's all kinds of things, tire chain, shovels, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and I think guys have more of a view of what a vehicle needs.
In case you break down at night, that's going to be handy.
Well, yeah, and so that's just something to think about, too, because, everybody has to remember, as a family, you're a family unit, and you're responsible for your family and yourselves. And so it's always a good idea to be prepared for your family.
Right. And then some of the things that you should, keep it at home, too, extra things for your vehicle, should you not be, be able to get to an auto parts store or whatnot. It's just prepping items for your vehicle that might be overlooked as far as maybe extra water pumps, sort of fuses, spark plugs, distributor cap, fuel filter, fuel pump, just a few extra things that regularly or, could possibly wear out or break down. So just some
simple little prep stuff.
Added items, right? Heck, I know people don't even have a spare tire in their vehicle, and that's just to me, a no-brainer.
Well, or spare water. Because, of course, it will never, ever happen. A disaster or an emergency will never, ever happen when you're in your vehicle. I mean, and especially to me. And that's how people think.
Oh, I know.
But how about the earthquakes in California, and how many people were actually trapped in their vehicles, a while back, or in a snowstorm? Matter of fact, I was coming home from work, and this was I was younger. I was like 20 years old. I was coming home from work, and we had just a heck of a snowstorm. And eventually my vehicle would not go any further. And I barely got it off to the side of the road, and then I had to walk about 6 miles home. Now, luckily, even then at the time, I had a big coat in the back, and I was thankful because it was cold. The only funny thing is I was all in white, a painter's whites, and I had a big white coat. And you would believe how many people would take a second look at me. I probably looked like a big polar bear going down the snow.
Well, I remember that coat. We called you the Michelin Man.
Yeah.
Or the Pillsbury Doughboy or something, because that coat made you look...
It was warm.
Honorable Snowman or something, but yeah, it was warm. Filled with down. Yep.
And so that's the thing. Don't think a disaster is not going to hit. When you're driving somewhere, driving to the store, driving to work or home from work or something like that. So don't think, well, that 96-hour kit for an emergency is the only thing I need in my house. And you neglect to think you could be at work when something happens.
Well, was that old saying? Expect it when you least expect it?
Well, exactly. And especially when it starts getting into the fall and winter months, you should be more prepared during that time of the period than anything. If something happens in the summer, for instance, you're just going to have to deal with some heat. But if it happens in the winter, you could very, very easily freeze to death.
Freeze and starve. Yeah.
Well, it takes 2 weeks to starve.
Whatever.
Yes, 3 days without water, but you could freeze to death. It could be very simple.
Sure.
And so to keep that in mind, matter of fact, I heard a story. This couple took a shortcut, and they got lost, and it was snowing out and stuff like that. And they stayed in their vehicle. Well, eventually they burnt the tires trying to do a signal, and still couldn't. And
this was a couple of years ago, wasn't it, in California or something?
I don't really remember where it was, but he finally took some extra clothes and put it on and started walking to go get help. This is just one. I know 2 stories, but and little did he know, it was like 8 hours or 10 hours or something. They actually found the vehicle, and her and her kid was still alive, but they couldn't find him. Well, eventually they found him almost half naked, dead. And they figured he started getting hypothermia, and started taking off his clothes because he was too warm. But he wasn't. He was actually freezing to death.
Right. And that's amazing how that your mind and body can play tricks on you like that when you're going through that.
Oh yeah. If you're freezing to death and all of a sudden you start getting really, really hot and you're in the snow, do not take off the clothes. Fight your brain. Don't do it. And so it's a good idea to always be prepared, especially in the winter months. So, and more so if you have kids.
True. Very, very true. I've been noticing more and more around here the locals that are preparing. And I think it's because been noticing a lot more articles or letters to the editors that are in our local newspapers, and folks around here tend to look at these local newspapers and or actual neighbors that they see writing into the letters to the editors about what's really going on in our state and our country. And I'm really glad to see this. I think it's waking people up, whether they think the economy is going to get a lot worse or they believe that biblical things are happening right before our very eyes. I was talking to an older gentleman the other day, and he confided in me and told me he had just purchased 15 acres up by some creek in the area because he says he's going to survive. And he, regardless of what's coming. But people, it's in the air. Something's coming. And I'm really happy to see that more of our community and neighbors are waking up and doing something about it. If it's not themselves, some suggestions that you might be able to do to get involved in helping your community is maybe, get with your church or other groups in the community Chamber of Commerce, of the city, whatever, and maybe, talk to them, talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, even if it's planting seed, let them know the importance of preparing for the what if, and that they should be doing it, especially with winter around the corner.
Yeah.
And making sure that their family and them are going to be okay. The more that you're out there talking to the community, the better, because you might prepare everything in the world, but something major really happens. You might not survive on your own, you and your family. You can't live in a cave. I think it is going to take community, staying strong and keeping the community together, and not, either neighbors and or, the small community.
Well, yeah, just like back in the olden days. The communities always supported, each other, and neighbors supported each other. Do you really want to try to defend yourself from your neighbor and because he didn't prepare? I mean, it'd be better if you worked together. So always remember, to take the time to get to know your neighbors, stop being so sheltered, and even stock up a little extra, because there's going to be people that need it. And yet say nobody prepared but you. Okay, you're going to survive, but you're going to be all alone. How long are you going to last? You have to have others. And I think that's the problem today, is that everybody has grown apart. Everybody closes their shades, they lock themselves in, and they're forgetting, that's the start of a complete downfall, and we're just to blame as anybody else. And so family preparedness should be included with neighbors, friends, communities, and so on and so on.
Well, and I think the better prepared you and your family and your community are, the less impacts that you'll encounter should, a major disaster occur. And seek these people out. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
I'm amazed at the amount of people that, I just talk about maybe the elections coming up, and then all of a sudden it turns into something of, things are going to get a lot worse, and we're preparing. So I just think it's a good idea, and I hope you do it. It gives you a little more comfort, I think, knowing that there are other like-minded people out there, not just in the World Wide Web world.
It gives me comfort.
Well, I know, but somebody, okay.
It's time for a break.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. John's motioning to me.
Motioning this. Yeah, basically. It's time to go for a break.
All right.
We'll be right back, and here's a word from our sponsors. Hopefully, every time you see and hear about a disaster, it makes you stop and think, what if it was me or my family? But what have you done to get yourself ready? Ask yourself some basic questions. Would you, your loved ones, or coworkers have enough supplies at home, school, or work if you had to shelter in place for days? What if the store shelves are empty, and power, water, and sewage aren't available, or aren't working? Have you talked to your family, friends, and neighbors about a meeting place, or what to expect before, during, and after different types of what-if scenarios? It's a disaster, and what you're going to do about it can help you answer these questions and many others. The 268-page book provides quick reference instructional bullets about what people should think about and do to prepare for specific disasters and emergencies, as well as how to perform basic first aid in one easy-to-use source. It's the perfect gift for prepping and non-prepping families and friends, and it might even save your life. Learn more at www.itsadisaster.net or call Fed Health at 1-888-999-4325 to learn more. And remember, tell them the Prepper Podcast sent you. At the Ready Store, they offer emergency preparedness solutions to individuals, families, businesses, and communities at prices you can afford. The Ready Store's mission is to bring peace of mind to their customers by helping them prepare for emergencies and disasters. They've been in the preparedness business for nearly a decade and hope that their experience and their selection of products will help you and your loved ones prepare for life's many unexpected emergencies. They believe in taking a measured approach to preparedness. Their motto is, do what you can, but start today. People put off getting prepared for many reasons, but mostly it is just because they feel overwhelmed and don't know where to start. Browse their website today. Just go to our link on our homepage at www.prepperpodcast.com and click on the Ready Store. Thank you.
And welcome back.
Thanks for staying with us.
Yeah.
We hope you're learning something.
Well, we know the majority is. There's one that probably isn't.
That'd be nice. We said we weren't going. No. Stop
Hey,
okay.
If he doesn't like the show, just don't listen to us. I mean,
That's true. That's true. Because I always say,
what?
I am going to say what I think and voice my opinion. If you don't like what I have to say, walk away.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you can't fix stupid.
No.
Okay. You sure?
Yep.
Okay. So, anyways, what else you want to talk about?
Well, if you can read, and if you listen to TV, I don't care what it is, news, newspaper, radio, whatever, everybody knows there's job losses. Food stamps are at an all-time high. Our system is breaking down. If you're not aware of that, if you're not aware that there could soon be no more food stamps to feed you, no more welfare, then what? What are you going to do?
Well, how about, too, and don't forget this, how about what if, let's say, the economy dropped and there is no food stamps, there's no welfare, there's no Social Security, there's no government services, there's nothing.
Right now they're talking about everybody's going to lose their retirements, 401ks, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's just going on and on and on. And if you can't see these signs, I'm really sorry. What we have always tried to get across over and over and over again to people, whether you listen to us or not, we all need to be responsible for ourselves and our family. The whole family needs to be involved. This is something that we believe kids need to learn. Be responsible for yourself. Oh, and speaking of that, I have to reiterate this. Okay? Yesterday, when I was at work, this little kid, couldn't have been more than 8 years old, came up to me. And I said, he was standing by the ice cream machine, and I said, did you need an ice cream cone, honey? And he says, no, I need to talk to somebody. And this is how serious he was. And I said, okay. Do you know who you want to talk to? Somebody that works here. I said, well, honey, I work here. Do you want to talk to me? And he says, yes. And I said, okay. And he points his hand to the back room, like he wants to go to the back room and talk privately. So I'm like, okay. So I walk back there with him, and I mean, he's as serious as all get out. Seriously. And he says, I need to know if there's any jobs that I might be able to do here for you, because I need $99 to buy me some shoes.
Aww.
And I said, honey, I wish I could have you do some work around here, but you have to be a certain age to work here, here. I mean, and of course, it's not my business, so, and liability issues as far as kids and whatnot. And I said, I'll tell you what you need to do. You need to go around to some of your neighbors, and you need to ask them if they have any odd jobs that you might be able to do for them. And I said, I think that's the best way for you to earn that money. I said, I really wish there was, well, it's just taking out the trash, he says. I said, I understand that, but if you get hurt, I just couldn't live with myself trying to explain to the kid, And so he, turned, thanked me and turned around and walked out. And there was a coworker that said, oh, if I had the money, I'd give it to him. And I just looked at him straight in the face and I said, excuse me? I said, that little boy was willing to work for money. What a concept, because he needed a new pair of shoes.
Yeah.
No, you're not going to give it to him. So anyway, that's what I'm trying. That little boy at 8 years old is trying to be responsible, and this is what we're trying to get through to our listeners. And so anyway, I hope I helped him. But what we're trying to do is not to rely on anyone else helping you out. That little boy wasn't.
I did the same thing when I was his age. I went around to my neighbors and would do yard work and clean garbage out of ditches and stuff to buy my mom a present. But we knew nobody was going to give us anything. We always had to take care of ourselves, and if we wanted money, we worked for it.
That's how we were raised.
Yeah.
That if you want something, you need to work for it, and that it's okay from time to time, that you do need to ask for help. All we're saying is don't make it a way of life, and instill some moral values in your kids. I see too many people out there that are me. Their frame of mind is somebody else owes them, and it just drives me nuts. Well, it drives both me and John nuts. We all need to get back to teaching our kids self-reliance. And if that means going and asking for work, honest, hard work to earn your money for what you need, it means being responsible for yourself. Back in May of this year, it was reported that 40 million families were receiving food stamp benefits. Home foreclosures, job losses, natural disasters, man-made disasters, like in the Gulf of Mexico with the oil spill and contaminants. People are getting sick, unable to work. Were they prepared for this? They should have been. That region, after going through Katrina, you would have thought this would have been a wake-up call.
Yeah.
Well, not just that region, but for everybody in the United States.
Well, exactly. You would have thought, but...
I mean, we could see by everything that went on down there that, wow, you can't rely on...
Well, and you can't rely especially on our government. They're not gonna come and help you and save you and stuff like that.
And all their apologies and excuses in the world can't take back for how those people were treated during Hurricane Katrina. Families need to get together and talk about this. Number one, do you really need that manicure? Do you need that latte every morning? Or taking your dog to the groomers? The money you spend on those items should be spent on food, seeds, ammo, and medical supplies. And yeah, it's our belief.
Yeah.
All that wasted money, and it's all it is. Excuse me. It's just feel-good stuff, and it's just temporary feel-good stuff. And I'll have to admit, yeah, every once in a while, we'll go out and buy a pizza.
Usually get sick, but.
Yeah, but it tastes good. Like I said, it's temporary feel-good. It tastes really good. We just know it's not so good for us. I'm not saying that pizza is not good for you, because I think it's an all-around excellent food. It has all the basics. But I'm just saying, and John and I talk and we about this a lot, about all the money we wasted over the years on all the feel-good stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And it really doesn't matter. Peace of mind, you can't put a price on that.
I know. People are willing to buy insurances and feel good stuff, and, I want this or I need this, and they think they need it, and they really don't. And they always seem to neglect the most important thing, and that is yourself and your family and your kids. And what I mean by that is by not preparing, by storing enough water and food, bug-out bags, emergency supplies, medical kits, et cetera, you're really neglecting them. You're neglecting yourself and your family and your kids. You're letting them down because you didn't prepare for a disaster, and that disaster could be anything. It could be man-made. It could be natural, solar. I mean, if you lived in a hurricane zone or an earthquake.
A tornado zone. We've been under tornado watch this past week a few times. One touchdown not too far from us. And, yeah, it doesn't matter where you live. It could be snow. It could be freezing rain, ice storm.
It could be 1,000-year flood. I mean, it hasn't flooded here in 1,000 years. Well, that doesn't mean it's not going to.
It hasn't. Well, we went through a 100-year flood.
Yeah.
In Washington State, and that was absolutely incredible. What with the devastation that it caused.
Yeah.
We went through Mount St. Helens. That was absolute. That was now, and I know people that have seen documentaries on that and whatnot. When they had, whenever we meet people across the country that said, "Were you there?" During the eruption, in Washington State, we knew we lived there in the past, and it's like, yeah, but they're all just in awe because what they see is like almost unbelievable or unimaginable unless you do see it firsthand or go through something disaster firsthand.
Oh, exactly. I mean, there was salmon actually jumping out of the river. It was hot, that hot. And the game department said that you couldn't pick up any of that salmon, that they had to sit there and dive because you didn't have a license or a permit. I know, stupidest things I've ever heard. They should have just beat the hell out of the guy.
Yeah, if you're hungry, and you eat. By whatever means necessary. Okay. So we're having a little bit of fun. Got to have a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
But it is serious, folks. It really is a serious matter and something that you shouldn't take too lightly because you will be sorry if you do and don't prepare. And
start teaching your kids to work for things. Stop being lazy. Nothing's ever owed to you just because you're born. That story that you were telling me.
Yeah. Something I'd heard on, I don't remember what it was, on the radio, and this guy called in, and he's telling the radio talk show host about how his daughter, when she would have friends over for either the day or maybe a sleepover, like kids normally, do from time to time, when the friends went home, he would often get a phone call from the friend's parents, and the other parents would say, we got to ask you a question, and we need to know if this is true. Did you have all the kids on their hands and knees scrubbing the kitchen floor? And they were just like, I can't believe you did this. And he said, yes, it's true. I did. And they asked, why would you do that? He simply said, well, they wanted to eat, didn't they? He didn't need to elaborate any further, I don't think, but he has a point there. And some people are going to just go, wow, that ain't very nice. They were over for a play date. Well, so what?
Well, exactly. That kind of makes me think, too, when I was growing up, before supper time, my parents would always say, is your chores done? Well, of course, because we thought if they weren't, we're going to get in trouble. But I bet you we weren't going to get any.
You weren't going to eat unless they were done.
And, of course, if we had a friend over, they would help us with our chores.
Well, yeah, we used to do that all the time. I went over to a neighbor. We would go over to these one neighbors, and it was either they were washing the car or raking leaves. And in order for them to be able to go play, when we came over to ask if they could play, well, all the leaves had to be raked up or whatever. And so, okay, got another rake. So we helped just so they could hurry up and get done with their chores so we could go play.
Yeah.
But it was no big deal to us. It was just, just Alicia has friends over.
Yes.
Alicia, you need to go check the eggs. Don't forget, that's...
Put the chickens away. And
excited to do it, and I don't know if it's because they don't have chores or it's a new chore because they don't have chickens,
Yeah.
And so it's kind of intriguing that you're going out to the chicken coop and you're collecting eggs. You don't just get them in the grocery store, so that might be part of it too, that it's intriguing, or feeding the chickens or feeding the rabbits, and at the same time they get to pet these, beautiful animals that, like the rabbits, are so soft. She had one friend over that was like, Alicia, let's go back down to the rabbits. I want to pet them, and she says, you just did. No, I only petted 5 of them. I want to pet them all.
which is more like 35.
And Alicia just couldn't understand that because she's like, they're all the same. So it was just cute.
I think that's where, when we were growing up, we would do chores, but we never got allowance. I never got allowance. You had chores to help out around the house because it's the family thing. Well, then eventually, I think parents, the more money they made and this and that, they started paying an allowance for these same chores.
They were bribing them.
Yes, but then a little bit later on, when the economy gets worse and worse and worse, and they're out of money, and so it started to go backwards to where, no, you're not going to get any money. Well, then the kids determined, well, then I'm not going to do my chores. And you see how it kind of got lost?
Uh-huh.
In the concept. Originally, it was to help out, and you always worked for what you wanted, and this and that, and
instead of it being handed to you.
And now they all think it should just be handed. So we really need to get back to the family values,
basics, values, and morals.
And how many families sit down together and eat dinner and say grace and discuss? Everybody just jumps on the TVs and this and that, and they all sit in their own little corners in their own little worlds and ignore everything else. And it I think really makes everybody or the family dysfunctional. Not that I'm a family counselor or something like that. I'm just doing my point of view so nobody out there gets confused.
And I think we all have dysfunctional members in our family somewhere down the line. No, heck, there's people around here that, are you kin to that? I might be kin, but I don't claim them.
Exactly. So we're pretty much going to wrap this show, and if you have any questions about the show or would like to have us discuss any topics and stuff like that, you can email us at, most everybody can email us at pioneerliving@pioneerliving.net. Or if you'd like to be a sponsor on the show, of course, you can email us at ADS, which is ads, at pioneerliving.net. And from time to time, we like having guests on the show. And so if you'd like to be a guest, you step forward and write us an email at pioneerliving@pioneerliving.net.
Either that or we just might call you randomly if you don't volunteer. If we don't get any volunteers pretty soon, we're just going to start calling people randomly and discussing how they prep, because everybody does have their own style of prepping and according to their own needs, and so it would be kind of cool to get somebody else's perspective. And if you don't step forward, then we're just going to start calling you randomly.
Well, and that's been kind of like the new thing lately. We've just been randomly, we'll call somebody and get them on the show if they're ready or not.
Right.
Matter of fact, where's that? You see if we can find that Norm guy's number.
Strike through trailer parks?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he's a real big expert, and we'll call him and ask his opinion right out of the blue, and ask him a lot of questions and see if he can answer them.
Right on. That'd be fun.
Yeah. So, Ray, thanks for being here, and thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Keep on prepping.
Good night.